John is going to be talking what's in a chair, so what makes up a chair and how that affects how you sit on it and its usability side of things. John's got a wealth of experience in furniture manufacturing. He's co-founder of Mark Product, who are a British furniture manufacturer based down in Cornwall. It's John's Tables Talks because he is literally at his kitchen table at home talking through information that should be able to help you in your specifying side of things. If you have any questions, the easiest way to do it on a webinar is if you can open up the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen and type any questions that you have in there. That's the best way for you to ask a question. John's going to be talking for 10 minutes and then we'll have 10 minutes of Q&A after that. And no further ado, I'll hand you over to John.
Hi everyone, welcome back again. It's the weather's turned a bit since last time. It's been quite rainy and blustery down in Cornwall, so let's hope it's better where you are all over the world. So we're talking about chairs this week. We've been talking, it's the first time we talked about chairs I think, and it's been very popular, this talk, and I think that that's kind of no surprise, because I always think that chairs are the sort of movie stars of a building. If the building is the film and the interiors are the set, the chairs are the sort of personality that inhabit that space, and they're very compelling objects, and we anthropomorphise them. They have legs and arms just like we are, and backs and seats and feet. But internally as well, chairs mirror us in their construction. So we've got a skeleton, and attached to the skeleton we have muscles and ligaments, and then we have layers of soft tissue over that, and then we have subcutaneous layers beneath the skin, and then we have a skin, and a chair has the same structure, which I'd always think I'd like to show in a sort of cut through of a person sitting on a chair, and like, oh, there's skeleton out to the skin and then the fabric back to the frame. So that's how I picture it, and we're going to talk about that today. And I want to talk about how those different bits of the way a chair is engineered affect the comfort. First of all, just to clarify comfort, because it's a really difficult concept. One of the reasons that we need to have exhibitions and showrooms and samples and everything else is that it's very difficult for one person to communicate to another ideas about touch. I think of all the senses, we just don't have a vocabulary, and it's really hard for me in 10 minutes we've got pictures, but to mainly use words to try and describe how something feels is very difficult. Years ago I read in a nursing book, when I was sort of doing some research on this, that comfort is most easily described as the absence of discomfort. So we know when we're uncomfortable, but and it's much easier to describe that. So I always think a chair is right for a particular situation. If you don't know the chair is there, you're not aware of it, and that's obviously very different in different situations. If you're lying in bed at night, it will be a different thing that makes you uncomfortable than if you're sitting in a task chair. So it's a thorny area, and I think some of the different ways of making a chair, and I'm specifically talking about upholstery today, and the bits of the chair that you don't normally see, can affect the comfort. So, taking my body analogy, I'm going to start with the skeleton and work outwards, and I usually run out of time, so we'll hear more about the skeleton and the muscles and so on than other parts, although this might be the one week I don't run out of time. So first of all, on frames. The frame is the skeleton of the chair, and it needs to have incredible strength for a number of reasons. I mean, first of all, obviously somebody's going to sit on it, but also the upholstery process and the suspension systems that we're going to talk about in a minute put huge forces on a chair, and when you start making furniture as a student or whatever, it can be really surprising. If you think about it, if you're using something like webbing on a chair and it's got lots of pieces of this stretched across it, and each piece you're pulling with great force, by the time you've gone across a sofa and you're putting, 10 kilograms of force into each one, you've put huge stresses into that chair. Another thing is that the frame of the chair is is the bit that you don't want to see. You don't want it to break, you don't want it to go wrong. It needs to last a long time. It needs to last beyond the life of all the other parts of the chair, so that it can be there, so it can be reused and recovered. So there are a number of different ways of making chair frames, and all of them are good. It's not like the kind of the sofa salesman will tell you, well, this has been made with dowels or with something, therefore it's inherently better. They're all good if they're done properly, and we make frames in, I think, 4 different ways. I just want to quickly show you. So traditional frame making is using hardwood, and this is made using beech. This is a frame of my booth chair, which is part of the Mycroft family, the newest member. And you can see that it's made up of different pieces of beech, which have all been individually cut and put together. It's a very sort of handcrafted thing, to be honest. Very strong. It's all glued and screwed together. The traditional approach. Then we have, this is a frame, part of the frame for the Studioscape range. You can sort of see the shape of that. And this is made in a different way with birch ply, which has been CNC cut and engineered with great care to make it all fit together. All the different features that are needed for the different items of the range are included in that. So just as it's not handmade in the same way, it's hand assembled, but it's not inferior. It's just a different approach. And then we saw this another talk near the beginning. This is going to be quite active, this talk. So this is again a traditionally made wooden frame, but in this case it's a show wood frame, so we're going to see it. So it's like the beech frame, but it's joined together in a much with sort of finished joints, and the actual suspension system is visible. Just to make a point about the strength needed in a frame, this is the seat part of the Studioscape frame. You can see where it's webbed underneath, and usually we make furniture frames in hardwood, but because this has got quite a lot of volume, we use softwood. But you can see the dimensions of this frame. These are joists that you could build houses with. It's like 60 mil by 150, and that strength is needed because of all of that tension that's in there before anyone sits on it, and then of course somebody sits on it and there's even more tension, and that over time is incredible. Okay, so there are types of frame. Then there's another one that we also do, which is a metal frame. It's a steel, tubular steel, which is a really good material if you want to have a form which is quite sort of clean lines, not as bulky as this. So the next thing is the muscles and the ligaments which are attached to that, and you can see that the Studioscape has got this kind of webbing, which is non-stretchy webbing. We've also got this kind of webbing, which is called Pirelli webbing, which is made of natural latex and which has some elasticity. You also may not have any webbing at all. You may just have a hard board that you sit on, or you may have some sort of springing system, and this is one that we use. This is zigzag springing or serpentine springing that we use on one of our products. And again, the sort of furniture salesman will try to upsell the more expensive types of springing, but it's horses for courses, and it's what's appropriate for the use. So if it's a kind of banquet seating scenario where people are sitting and sliding in and out and moving around, you don't want the seat to yield too much. There's nothing wrong with a hard board base with a layer of padding on top of that, but that wouldn't be suitable for the sort of chair that you're going to drop into. Obviously that comfort level signifies the function as well, so lots of, as specifiers, you will know all those conversations with clients who sort of don't want it to look too homey because they don't want to sort of set the wrong impression to their staff or their clients, or vice versa. They want to make a particular sort of statement about that. So this is where words are really hard. I talked about the sort of, so in hardness of suspension systems, we're going from a hard board to non-elastic webbing, to elastic webbing, to various springing systems. And the non-elastic webbing we use it for the studioscape, and it's a really good sort of contract soft seating type of feel. It's not rock hard. It does have it does yield, but it's resilient. So we really struggle with the words here. The elastic webbing that we use on the Aris chair there is a little bit more yielding, and the springing systems are more kind of want to say bouncy, a bit more of a sort of luxurious feel. That's the time. So over those, and those are the most important things to determine the comfort of a chair. It's not that the thicker the foam, the more comfy it is. It's the better designed the frame is and how well suspended the chair is that will determine the comfort. So over that we have layers of tissue, which is the foam, and then subcutaneous layers, which are interlinings, and then the fabric on top of that. Perhaps we'll pick those up in the questions, but I wanted to. Can I finish? Antonia, did you have that picture of the Bosco sofas? I just want to finish on, which was quite a nice sort of summary. Can you share? Can you share that picture?
1 second, and I will.
Okay. So I just wanted to share an image of two sofas that we made called Bosco 1 and Bosco 2, which are superficially very similar, but engineered quite differently because of the function. Thanks, Antonia. That's cool. So you can see that we designed it. It was designed by Gala Wright, the top sofa first, and the second sofa, the one at the bottom second, to have a different sort of one with more of a softer feel and one with more of a contract feel, if you like. But it's way more than what it looks like. The top one has got talk a bit about fillings now. It's got cushions which have two densities of foam, and then on top of those feather, on top of those interliner, and on top of those fabric. And the bottom one is much more of this sort of studioscape approach with a slab of foam with a polyester interliner. Now, but because of those different feels of cushions, you have to treat you sit in the chair differently. So Bosco 1 has to be deeper because you sit in it in a deeper way, and you need the metal spring suspension that it has to give it so that everything kind of falls into place properly. If you had metal springs or something more springy on Bosco 2, which is the one below, when you sat on it, the cushion would sort of go like that, like a banana. So you need to have a less yielding base, and we use webbing for that base, non-elastic webbing for that base. And just the whole sit is different, so the sofa ends up being a lot shallower as well. So we use this slide quite a lot when we're talking about our products, and they look extremely similar, but actually they're different in almost every way. And that's my little story about what goes underneath the sofa is quite a strong determinant of what you use it for. I'm going to stop there because being true to time. But any of the things I've missed out on that people want to pick up in questions? I can see a few questions.
Yes, we've got a question. When you can't see the structure of an internal frame, are there obvious cues to determine the quality of a build?
Probably the honest answer is no. So it's famously something that you can get away. Less reputable furniture makers can get away with. Nobody's going to see it in the showroom. Nobody's going to see it the day it arrives. And it might the fault might not make itself apparent for a year or two. So it is one of those things where it's reputation and recommendation, and that's what one of the things that makes contract furniture different from domestic furniture, because it's just built for a better performance. And people who make it, like us, don't want to have to go back and fix it after 5 or 10 years. So not really, I'm afraid. And actually, you can make I'm saying the sort of it's made with dowels and things is a very nice sort of poetic thing to say. But if it's really well made, it doesn't really matter. And one thing is, creaking is never a good thing. frames should always be glued together so that the surfaces can't slide over each other, which makes them creak. And even if something's new, if it's got a bit of noise, then that's not going to get any better.
Thank you. Another question: what's more important in terms of how the sit and feel of a chair or a sofa is? The cushions or the webbing, the under part of it, whether it's on webs or springs?
Yeah, it's really difficult, the language, isn't it? Sit, feel, the words that you used and what we mean by them. In terms of sort of support and comfort and, how you feel at the end of the day if you've been sat in a chair, it's definitely to do with the design of the frame and the suspension system much more than it's to do with kind of anything that goes above that. But in terms of feel, we feel and touch and the way that how attractive a chair is visually, and also when you touch it and so on, that is clearly all in in the layers beneath the cover. So an interliner and a lining and so on. But yeah, in terms of, to answer your question straight, it's much more what goes on underneath. And studies have shown that the chairs that rate best for comfort in these sort of blind tests they do are often quite hard but well contoured chairs with quite a thin layer of foam. It's not about the squidgier I make it, the more comfy it'll be.
Thank you. We've got another question. Are there any frame structures that will be easier to reupholster than others?
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose traditional is the easiest because this sort of construction has evolved over hundreds of years, and there are plenty of chairs around which are hundreds of years old that have been reupholstered very many times. They're made to be covers taken off and stapled and so on. It's quite a high craft way of recovering. So yeah, wood-based is easier. Metal frames, it is. Or we use sort of different techniques to cover metal frames. So a loose cover approach is fine, but it is quite difficult to start again if you want to re-foam a metal frame chair. So it is if you want really long life, if you were doing a job for perhaps quite a traditional organisation, something that was going to be handmade and last 50, 100 years, you'd definitely be wanting to look at the much more traditional approaches. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, and thank you, John. I think we've now reached 11:20.
Okay.
So, if anybody has any additional questions that John hasn't managed to cover off in the last 20 minutes, please do email John directly or inquiries@market, and we will get back to you with your questions. Next week, John is going to be unpicking the greenwash, so actually getting to the root of the issue of what makes a piece of furniture a sustainable product rather than all the PR spin that comes on top of things as they are. So let's say thank you very much to everybody for attending. I will send you an email with a link to next week.
Thanks, I hope you found it useful.